guys, it's Vicky, and today I am here with my March wrap-up part 1. I decided to split up my wrap-up for March because I had a pretty decent stack of middle grade books because of middle grade March, but then I also read a decent amount of like adult stuff, and so I thought I would kind of split it down the middle and do middle grade in one wrap-up and adult in another wrap-up. Just to make it a little bit of a shorter video for you all. So today I'm going to be talking about the adult books that I read in March. I read 5 of them, so let's go ahead and just dive in. Alright, so the first adult book that I read in March ended up being my favorite book of the month. And it was just so good. That is The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock. This is a horror novel, I would call it. And it is about a group of people because there are a couple of different storylines kind of going on throughout the book that at the beginning you're not really sure what their connection is, but it all comes together at the end. So it's kind of one of those books where the plot isn't necessarily very there's a lot of different plots going on, I guess. So it's kind of hard to give you a super adequate synopsis because there's like, I want to say like 3 or 4 different stories going on where you're wondering how is this all connected, but it does, I promise, it does come together. But it centers around a town in Ohio where, yeah, there's these cast of characters that seemingly have nothing to do with each other than that it takes place in the same place, but then they all kind of end up connecting. So you have a character at the beginning, a guy whose wife is ill. She has cancer, she's dying. He has a little boy and is just really struggling with accepting that he's going to lose his wife. Then you have this married couple who are serial killers basically, who drive around and they pick up hitchhikers and kill them. You have these 2 guys who are kind of traveling preachers. There's another preacher that comes into the story. Yeah, and so all of these characters are super dark, and for the most part, many of them are unlikable, but they also kind of have that gray area about them. Especially the first character that you meet, I can't remember what his name is, Willard I think his name was, the guy who's losing his wife. He definitely was one of those characters that toes the line between good and bad. So yeah, it was so atmospheric, so gritty, but it's very character driven. So some people might not like that, but I absolutely loved this. There was some stuff in here that was just wow, like just really shook me. Definitely surprised me and was definitely dark. In the way that the book ended, like I said, the way everything kind of came together, I was just like blown away. I loved this so much. This was a 5-star read, and I'm so excited to watch the Netflix film adaptation of this, although I'm already kind of in the back of my mind being a little judgy and thinking that this type of story may have been better as a limited like mini series rather than just like a 2-hour film. But I'm trying not to pass judgment. I want to watch it anyway and kind of see. So I'm probably going to do a Flicks and Lit for this because I need to see how everything panned out. I'm really curious because Robert Pattinson plays the one preacher that comes into play later who is just despicable. He's the worst. And I'm really excited to see him play that character because I just would not have expected this character to be played by Robert Pattinson. So yeah, I'm excited. If you haven't read The Devil All the Time, read it. It is so, so good. I loved this. It was 5 stars. Okay, so next up I read a couple of memoirs. And I did a vlog in March where I was reading these 2 books. So if you want to check that out, I will link it. But the first one that I completed was A Promised Land by Barack Obama. This is Barack Obama's presidential memoir. There's going to be 2 volumes. This one covers his first term of presidency. So I listened to the audiobook, and thankfully that was very, very beneficial because though there were a lot of interesting parts in this book, there were times that it was a little bit slow, a little bit dry, and it was just helpful to have the audiobook. Also, Barack Obama narrates the audiobook, which is great. It was interesting because obviously I was alive during his first term of presidency, and but I had forgotten like all the stuff that was going on back then. And he covers it all, you know. He covers the financial crisis. Well, first of all, he talks a little bit about his early life and when he was like elected into the Senate, and then his campaigning for the presidency, and then all that. So you get a little bit of his background, which is great. And then it goes into his presidency where he talks about, like I said, the financial crisis, healthcare reform, some of the environmental type of stuff he was trying to do, and of course, at the very end, it was literally like the last chapter, he talks about when they took down Osama bin Laden, which I was really looking forward to reading about. So yeah, he covers it all, and it's interesting, but again, there were some parts that weren't so interesting, that were a little bit slow. He goes into a lot of detail, which isn't surprising. I mean, Barack Obama is known for being a little bit long-winded, so it's not a surprise that this is a longer book. And it was interesting though, because you kind of already know this, but it kind of gives you a sense of just the kind of behind the scenes BS that comes with politics. How you kind of have to, when you're trying to get stuff done, you have to kind of just like play politics. Like people might feel a certain way about a topic or about a piece of legislation, but they don't want to vote yes on it because they're worried they won't get reelected, and like stuff like that. And he talks about that, with how that kind of stuff was difficult. And then obviously the stuff also going on within his own party. So yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. I definitely will read the next volume when it comes out. But this one, like I said, had its good parts, it had its slow parts, but it was all right. I liked it. It was a 4-star read for me. And the other memoir that I read was Me by Elton John, and I buddy read this with Bobby over at Bobby Reads because she had mentioned it in her TBR that she wanted to read it, and I was like, hey, that's been on my TBR and I kind of want to read it too. So we were gonna buddy read it, and then she actually ended up for my birthday sending me a few books, and this was one of them. So thank you, Bobby. The other books I'm gonna talk about in my birthday book haul. So yeah, she got me this book and we buddy read it together, and it's basically Elton John's memoir about his life, and I really, really enjoyed this, especially coming from, you know, being a person that isn't a like huge super Elton John fan. I still wanted to read this because I just heard that it was very candid and funny and interesting, and it really was, because at the end of the day, Elton John has been in the music business for like 50 years and has put out just hit after hit after hit. And it's just interesting to hear about that process and what it was like, and how music evolved from the 70s when he started out up until, you know, today. And yeah, this was very funny. I laughed a lot in this book. And he, like I said, was very open about everything, about his childhood, his sexuality, his drug use, his addictions, all of it, his different relationships and all of that. And it was good. I liked it. I really liked it. And I don't read a lot of celebrity memoirs, but the music ones, and I talked about this in my vlog, the music ones really are the ones I think I want to go after, because they, to me, are just interesting. I don't know why. Musicians and people that make music just interest me. And so, yeah, this was a lot of fun. It was interesting to hear him kind of tell little stories about other musicians that he was friends with. I mean, like, he was friends with the Beatles. They're like super famous, and he was super famous too, but even he was like, oh my gosh, that's Paul McCartney, like when he first met Paul McCartney and stuff like that. And so it was just interesting to see him in that sort of environment. And yeah, it was really good. I really liked it. Even if you're not a huge Elton John fan, I would recommend this memoir if you're into memoirs, because it just kind of has everything. It has it all. And yeah, this was I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. It was almost a 5-star. That's how much I liked it. Because yeah, it was just very, very good. So yes, if you haven't read this and are at all interested, you should definitely check it out. And then next up, I did my continuation of the Saga series. So I read volume 5 this month, and I'm still really enjoying this. I don't want to give away too many details about this volume because it's the 5th volume, but it does center around a couple that are sort of star-crossed lovers. They're from different planets, and their planets are, or one is from a, it's like one's a planet and one is a moon of a planet, and they're at war, so they're not supposed to be together, but they fall in love and they have a baby. And so people are after them, and after their child, because they're very interested in this child that is, you know, part this species and part that species. And then there's a couple of other like subplots also going on that kind of deal with our main characters. And so yeah, it's just very interesting. There's just a lot of like political type stuff. There's a lot of action. The artwork is amazing. I absolutely love the artwork in this. And it's interesting because I don't think I've mentioned this before, but the story is told through the eyes of their child. She is telling you, like reflecting back on, you know, what she knows about how she came into the world and what was going on and everything. And it's interesting because now, at this point in the story, she's getting older and everything. And yeah, there has definitely been some like plot twists, and like the gang is kind of in different places right now. And so it's like, oh, what's gonna happen? So yeah, I really liked this. It wasn't my favorite volume of the 5. I think I liked volume 4 a little better, but I did still enjoy this, and it was a 4-star, and I already have volume 6 and I can't wait to read it. And then I finished out the month with my adult reads by reading The Removed by Brandon Hobson, and I read this one because of Roxanne Gay's book club. It was the March pick, and I was really interested in reading it because it deals with a Cherokee family. There's a mom and a dad and 3 kids, and their oldest son, Ray Ray, is killed by a police officer. And so the start of this book takes place 15 years later. So Ray Ray has been gone for 15 years, and it's about the family sort of still reflecting on that loss and dealing with that loss, because you get different perspectives in the book. You get Maria, who is the mother, and then you get the 2 siblings. I believe the daughter's name was Sonia. For some reason her name escapes me. And then their son Edgar, and they're both kind of dealing with their own stuff, but they're all coming together as a family again to for the anniversary of Ray Ray's death, to kind of share memories and just sort of remember him. And so that's kind of the driving force of this story, is they're getting ready to reflect on another anniversary, another year without Ray Ray. And then kind of also you have this other perspective in the book of this spirit named, I believe it was Chala, who in those sections you get some Cherokee history, you get Cherokee sort of folklore sort of stories, and he is a spirit of a Cherokee leader who I believe was killed during the Trail of Tears, which was the time in the 1800s when the Cherokee people were forced from their land by white settlers, and a lot of them died. And this particular person, he refused to leave and was killed. So you're getting this very contemporary sort of story about this family that is dealing with a loss, but not just any loss, because Ray Ray was lost due to violence, and so that kind of loss is different, and they're still dealing with that. But then you also are getting this sort of ancestral story where it is tying in with this family, because those traumas from hundreds of years ago are still affecting the people, the Cherokee people. And so it was really interesting the way that Brandon Hobson kind of weaved that into the story. And I really liked it. I would say my favorite sections of the 4 point of views was Maria, the mother, mostly because, I don't know if maybe it's just because I'm a mom, so I was really just identifying more with her point of view. of losing a child. Like, I can't imagine. And again, losing a child to violence. And just her perspective, I just found, I just really connected with. And just the kind of story that's going on in her perspective was also really interesting. Because the other thing that Brandon Hobson does in this book is he also kind of weaves in some magical realism, because the family's getting ready for this bonfire to reflect on Ray Ray and to remember him. And the days leading up to that bonfire, they are all experiencing these sort of magical, supernatural sort of things where Ray Ray, it's almost like Ray Ray is making his presence known, and through either other people or through other means. And it was just really cool how he did that. It made the story unique and different. And the writing was good. Like I said, Maria's sections were my favorite. I also, though, enjoyed Edgar's sections, and he is Maria's son, Ray Ray's brother. And his story was interesting because he is an addict and is dealing with that. And his sections were, the way they were written, they were just very eerie and unsettling. And I can't really explain it. It was just a feeling that I got reading his sections, where it just felt just almost kind of scary to me, because you weren't really sure what was going on. It's one of those books that is super, super character focused. So there is basically not a lot of plot going on. Like I said, there's that driving force that they're getting ready to come together as a family again on this anniversary. But that's pretty much the only real plot. It's mostly just about the people, the characters, and what they're feeling and what they're going through at that moment, and how this horrible loss that they experienced is still affecting them today, and obviously the horrible traumas that their people have experienced for hundreds of years, and how it's affecting them presently. So I thought it was really interesting. I really liked the writing. I definitely would read more Brandon Hobson, you know, down the road, because I enjoyed it. It was really good. I listened to it on audio, and I recommend the audiobook. It was well done. And yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. All right, guys, so those are the books that I read in March that were my adult books. And yeah, I will be back soon with my middle grade wrap up, so look out for that. And let me know down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. And let me know what you read in March, because I would love to hear what everybody was reading. What was your favorite read in March? I want to know. All right, guys, that's all I have. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I will talk with you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.